You are making invisible mistakes that are stopping you from climbing. And I know this because I see this every single day in my coaching program. So in this video, I'm going to show you why you're stuck at each rank and how to fix the invisible mistakes that you're making. The examples are taken from my coaching program, where we have a channel where you can post these clips and get feedback on your individual problems. So if you're looking to unstuck and speed up your climb, check out the link in the description. This first clip is from a gold player, and he asked, how could I have played this fight better? So whenever you're reviewing fights, you always review and break them down through the micro and the macro components. As you can see, the fight gets pretty close. Yasuo almost dies. He gets his wind wall back up. And it looks like Echo in the end messes up. We die as well. So it's a horrible situation. Now, what could we have done better? Well, we always start by reviewing the micro. In this specific situation, it starts off pretty classic. We get a nice chunk onto the Alistar. We force out his ult. So far, so good, right? We get an extra chunk in onto the Alistar, and now we swap focus onto the Yasuo. I like that a lot. I think our movement here is a little bit too far back, and therefore we can't immediately hit the Yasuo. We could have already started hitting him a little bit earlier. And I think the biggest problem here is that Yasuo actually self-CCs himself in his ult, and we don't throw our Q while he's self-CC'd, and therefore we miss our Q. Now this is a really big deal, right? The first question you always ask yourself in these fights is, how could I have dealt more damage? In this case, it's actually very simple. We missed our spell where we put 4 points into, and we dealt 0 damage with it. So of course, we're not going to be dealing the most amount of damage. I think the E was quite good. I think that the Ignite is also quite good. And of course here, it's unlucky that Echo misplaced. That's completely out of our control, not important. And afterwards, we win the fight. So what is the improvement here? Well, it might sound crazy and simple, but it's just simply landing this Q and being able to deal a little bit more damage the moment Yasuo goes in. You see that we slightly step a little bit too far back. And the simple fix in this case is we got to use our Q at a time when the enemies cannot really dodge it. So either what we do is we use it when they're self-CC'd or CC'd by your team, or you hold it a little bit longer, for example, until this point, before he gets his wind ball in through the minions. That's a great time to throw it. But I think that the best way to go about it is by throwing it whenever he's self-CC'd at the beginning, because it's a guaranteed way of landing your spell. Now, we also want to break this down through the macro component. Was this a smart fight to take? I reckon yes, because if we execute this properly, then the fight is going to be completely okay. So in that case, the fight's totally fine to take. Of course, there's arguments. You don't really want to skirmish into a Yasuo, but you always got to be opportunistic whenever you play the game, and you want to be open for potential opportunities, and this definitely was an opportunity as long as we just execute properly. So in this case, micro execution is the key. So this next clip is from a gold Zinra player, and he asks, what are the correct lane assignments when I deploy from base, and should I TP into the fight? So let's see the clip play out and take a look at how he approaches it. In this position, he opens up to bot. We see that Baron's up, Dragon's coming up as well. He does a great job pinging the Dragon. That's always a good start. There's a bit of a play happening on top where they collapse onto the Garen. And it looks like we kind of shift onto mid lane. And it looks like we're a little bit disconnected from the play here. And the team kind of dies. It's just awkward. Nothing major happens, but it just is pretty awkward. So let's break down what the correct way of going about it so we can include ourselves in the game. There's many ways to do it, so let's take a look. You always start on a tab. Whenever you deploy on a tab, you always ask yourself the question, what's the next neutral objective right here? Okay, and in this specific case, we identify the Dragon's next neutral objective that we want to play for. Baron is playable, but it's hard. We can't really start the Baron all that easily without the enemies contesting us and us getting wiped. So Baron's not really on the menu right now, and that means that we're going to be playing from Dragon. And that means that opening up through bot, or at least bot side, is fine. We want to be in the bot side area of the map here. That means that we also want to ping the Dragon. So we're doing a few things already quite right. Now, when it comes to the deployment, should we go bot or should we go through mid? Well, that's a really good question. In this specific situation with Dragon coming up next, what we should do is we should open up through mid, and Vayne should open up through mid as well. Both of us should go mid. Why don't we go bot lane here? Because bot lane is actually really deeply pushed in. So if we go bot lane here, we're going to need to catch the wave rather deep. We're a little bit vulnerable depending on what Rek'Sai is doing. If Rek'Sai opens a bot here, we might be vulnerable, might not even be able to catch the wave. So if we deploy through mid, we can get mid prio together as a team and then get vision control together as a team into the bot side of the map. So deploying through mid into bot side would be the correct way of going about it. We are homeless on bot lane. The only time we need to be bot lane is when this wave crashes under the turret, when it's bouncing back into us. So we got heaps and heaps of time. Now Lulu gets caught, no problem. Okay, happens. It's solo queue, shit happens. What we should do in this specific situation is we should actually look to play very slow until Lulu gets back on the map. And then we're going to look to contest Dragon. Now, in this case, I would have liked to be a bit more mid. Why would I like to be mid? This bot lane wave is neutral. It's completely irrelevant. And that way we can prevent the enemies from getting anything done, any action. And we really got to do a good job communicating this towards our team as well, right? Make sure that your team also is aware that we just need to wait for Lulu and that we're going to play for Dragon. So I really like this, that he eventually moves to mid here and that he eventually tries to just catch the waves, wait for Lulu to get back and eventually play Drake. But as you can see, his team in the meantime decides, hey, I'm going to play on top side and I'm going to look to make a bit of a play there, which led to Garen and Briar dying. Now, should we TP in? Absolutely not in this situation, because it's really far away from the Drake. We're late to the play as Syndra. As Syndra, you don't want to be late, you want to be early. Plus, it's really risky and your position might get compromised, so you get collapsed upon. So we want to prevent this risk. We don't need to make this TP play or this play on top lane in general to win the game. We just need to not play at all on top lane, okay? The less action happens right now, the better it is, because we need to wait for Lu to get back. So instead of TPing, right, the question should be, should we ping this off? Yeah, absolutely, right? We should 100% ping this off. This is ridiculous play happening on top side. And if you can prevent this play from happening, slow it down, front to back, at the Dragon with Lulu in. It's the most consistent play that we can have. And climbing in League is all about consistency, guys. So this next example is from Silver Victor player that is struggling with understanding when to move for dragons and when not. And I understand that because dragons can be very, very iffy to play for, especially in the early game. Now, we identify that we have our E upgrade here, which is extremely good because it's going to give us a lot of wave control. And we are doing a great job trading onto Akali. As we can see that our bot lane has priority here. And this is going to allow the boys to now start up the dragon. And we can potentially now play for that. We get a little bit of vision. Great vision. I really like that vision. It looks like we use a little bit of a custom skin, which I don't even know what that is. Or maybe it's like a normal game. Maybe it's like Earth. I don't know what Riot's doing. It's a good question regardless. And what we identify is that their team is now getting contested on Drake, which leads to the Drake getting stolen, the team dying. And that is, of course, terrible, terrible, terrible for the game state. So let's break down what exactly we could have done here to prevent this from happening and get in a good position. Now, first and foremost, right, whenever we're Victor into Akali, and we are doing such a good job with the trades, right? Fantastic E. Akali is incredibly low right now. We have ult coming up. We should never allow this guy to just breathe in the lane right now. We should just push her out. She is at the point of no return. Your REQ combination one-shots her right now, and it's pretty fucking hard to miss that. So instead of using E there, walk up, hold your spells, step up, and pressure this guy. This guy is not allowed to live. So I think that Akali is getting a little bit too much room here in this lane. Now, in regards to the dragon, okay, the dragon started right now. We have two options, okay? Option number one, we keep the wave neutral, don't touch it, and we instantly move, contest the area, block the chokes. Completely viable option. Okay, and that way we are always first. We can always be preventing the enemies from joining in. And in that case, we can also just potentially fish for this, just say Giovanni out and chunk her so that she is lower HP and therefore makes it harder for her to steal Drake or get in, or disincentivize her to get in to begin with. That is absolutely a viable option. Another option, if you want to be playing a little bit more greedy, is to actually be earlier, deeper on the wave. You see that this Victor player, he takes this, he moves into the river. Looks like it's probably normal again. That's fine. He moves into the river. He takes a little bit of gold. And what then exactly happens is that he's too late for the mid lane crash. What he could have done is he could have already been deep in the mid lane, pushing this wave halfway out. This wave could have been practically dead already. Of course, it's a cannon, so he needs an extra rotation of E. It's probably dead right now. And then he can move to the fight and he would be there on time. So as long as you just make a decision and you stick to a decision and you all in on that decision, generally you're going to have success in this specific case. And because he was kind of in this twilight zone where he was wishy-washy, he didn't fully commit to clearing the wave. He got himself in this awkward position, and therefore the team eventually dropped. So both situations would work if he fully clears the wave by playing in deep, pushing a carry off and then moving, or if he instantly moved and dropped the wave. And the truth is, guys, it doesn't matter really which solution that you take, as long as you are very intentional about the awareness of the dragon spawning and that you need your team to play there. If you go into the Twilight Zone and you're not able to back your team up, it might be smart to ping your team off, because early dragons are very, very dangerous to fight because they deal a lot of damage and they're very tanky. So this next question is from a Platinum Victor player that is getting caught off guard by a jungler gank. And we're going to figure out if this was something that we could have prevented and what to do about it. So we're slow pushing into Silas, which generally is the correct way of playing the waves into him. And we see that we're in a position where we eventually get engaged spawned by the Silas and also the Olaf here, which leads to a kill from the enemies, which is, of course, pretty tough for us. Now, in a position like this, there's a few things to consider. First and foremost, Olaf, okay? Did we have any idea of the Olaf pathing or clear to begin with? It seems like Olaf started our top side because he did red Raptors into a mid gank. Now, this is not super common, but a key thing that I see here, level 1, is that we do not defend the entrances to topside here. So Warwick in this case was just running into bot immediately, and he didn't get any vision out into his topside, and therefore it was really easy for the enemy Olaf to invade him. Now, what should we do as Victor? Well, as Victor, we don't necessarily have to ward topside, or it's not really our job to defend it. But if we recognize that Warwick isn't doing it, one thing you could do is you could potentially play a little bit of defense in this pocket here, where you then can check if someone runs in, right? It's a potential option. Another thing you could do, if you're scared maybe of Silas eating over the wall, which is also totally viable, another thing that you could do is then actually deep ward the enemy bot side here, level 1. But that's also something that could be scary, because we might be getting trapped by Silas there. So we gotta kind of link up with Warwick. And if we're unsure about the enemy jungler whereabouts, then we need to just manage our waves incredibly, incredibly well. And what we see right here is that this Victor actually goes for a little bit of a crash on wave 3, which is totally fine. A crash on wave 3 is totally viable. But in an ideal world, I reckon we crash on wave 2, because then we can do a 2-wave cycle into a 2-wave cycle. And it's going to make us a little bit less vulnerable in this wave state. Now, we could also have placed a ward between wave 2 and 3, right? If we don't place a ward wave 1, before wave 1, guys, you need to place a ward between wave 2 and 3, after 2, before 3. So this is our warding window. So if we ward right now on bot side, we could potentially be in a position where we can lean and be safe. But now there's also the other key thing, is that this Olaf gank right here, was this even a gank that we should have expected? It's a little bit of a noisy one. If someone brings me this vault in a coaching session, I would say, okay, these are all the things that you could have potentially done. Was this something that you thought about? Was this something that you were aware of? Because these are just the fundamentals of mid lane. And if they say, yeah, look, this was my intention, I just didn't expect him to come, great. Sometimes enemy junglers will just go for ganks like these. And it is actually quite a good gank, because he does a 2-wave and he can then go into bot to defend because Warwick shows bot. But otherwise it would be a little bit of a flippy one, of course. Now, there is a way to also escape this gank, and it's by dodging Olaf Q. If you dodge Olaf Q, which you do by flashing right now, if you flash the moment you see this Q, Olaf will not be able to kill you because his Q misses. And then it's going to be quite hard for him to actually kill you, because he's level 2 and he doesn't really have E up just yet. So you don't get armor reduced, you don't get slowed, you can run away. Yes, you're going to be low, yes, your lane's fucked, but at least you don't die. And that's quite good for the game state. So this next example is in Diamond. We're getting to the bigger ranks here. And it's a position where it's a bit of a dragon sequence that gets a little bit complicated, and we're just going to figure out what exactly to do. Now, we are nicely pushing in the wave here. This is quite good. We're level 9 on Azol, and we have Roa. Look, I'm personally not really a Roa fan. I would definitely recommend doing Rileys, but some people like cooking with the builds. And there's a bit of a skirmish happening on the bot side, which we then fly into. We get a few passive stacks. Eventually, we get collapsed upon by the Echo Stun into the CC, and we just get annihilated. This death ends the play, of course. So let's break down all of the key specific things that will allow this play to go a little bit better next time. Now, first and foremost, we're playing strong side here, which is around the Yunara, which is definitely good. Yunara is a strong member. We want to play bot, and this dragon is going to be incredibly important for us to get because we can then force fights around bot lane, no one in game. We see that the enemies have a very interesting composition. They have Echo, Talon, Jinx, and Viego support. There's very limited self-peel here in regards to team-wide peel. Of course, Echo R, Talon R, they can peel themselves, but these guys are very, very vulnerable to CC, like really interesting skirmishing. And they need to get this one pick, this one reset, then they can make it work. If they don't get this one pick, they're going to massively struggle. What we see from our end is we have an Amumu that's strong, Yunara strong, definitely want to enable Yunara from hitting. And currently our ults on Yunara and Amumu are not up. Now, if there's one thing that you need to understand is that Amumu is an incredibly ult-reliant champion. With R up, he's one of the strongest champs in the game. Without ult, he's one of the weakest champs in the game. So in this specific position, it starts off really well. I love that we get vision control here too. And what we need to do is we just need to simply stall for the ultimates. So pushing this wave is quite good. I really like this. And what we need to do is we just need to make sure to not commit to a fight. So what I would do here is stay in this bush, a little bit more towards the downside. So if Talon jumps over the wall, he doesn't immediately get onto our face. I would stay around right here. And I would make sure that no action happens right now. I would ping my team off, wait for the play to happen. Because in this case, even though that we might have a temporary number advantage because Talon's still in the back, it's very hard for us to play because we have no Yunara and no Amumu ult. And you see that it becomes quite challenging to fight. All we need to create, right, is a front to back with our comp. We have Karma, Yunara, Amumu, Azol. Front to back fights can't lose. If we split the fight up and we give the enemies a reset, that's how we're going to lose. We came from a flank angle. We gave the enemies an opportunity to get a catch. Plus, we didn't have ults, which led to the fight going bad. This is a position where if we look at the bigger picture, these are the reasons why a lot of people don't climb plays like these. Because if the way I compare it in my coaching sessions is you want to take the highest percentage play possible. Climbing in League is not about taking every play. Climbing in League is about making sure that you don't take the plays that aren't consistent and you only take the plays that are consistent. Because consistency is the key to climbing. And this is a play that would have maybe worked out like 50% of the time. And you may say, Tim, 50%, that's kind of decent. That's not bad. No, 50% is not odds that I like to take. It's a literal coin flip. Of course, you're going to be hard stick if you're coin flipping every single one of your games, right? You need to be more consistent in your approach. You need to take plays that are 70% likely of working out. And that's when you're taking consistent plays. That's when I'm willing to take the gamble, when the odds are in my favor. And we are not in a rush. We have a way better comp in the front-to-back scaling, right? We don't have to brute force anything. We've got Yunara, Amumu, Azol, which can just stall out games, have immense team fighting, and we need to play towards our strengths. And if we do that, that's how we can eventually get to the point where our games are going to get more consistent, and we can eventually get more control over our climb. The next example is from a Diamond Victor player in the lane that kills the enemy Orianna and is now unsure how to approach the reset in this laning phase, which really makes sense because it is a pretty tricky situation. So after killing the enemy laner, right, the mindset is we want to take a reset for sure, and we want to gain as many minions as possible, lose as little as possible, and as a bonus, we want to deny the enemies as much as possible. But since there's not much denying here, right, we're kind of in this position where we just need to suck it up and make sure that we lose as little as possible. So how do we lose as little as possible? Well, the first thing we need to establish is that we have Ghost. This is a game where we took Ghost Victor, and because we took Ghost Victor, we're fucked, okay? Because we can't get a good reset off. Into matchups where you can't get lane control through pushing out the wave through your strong trading as Victor, sometimes you do not want to run Ghost but TP. Ahri are good examples. Orianna is a lane that I would also take TP into because I've been in very similar situations in the past, even if we don't kill her, but she just pushes in the wave and resets, tempo resets with TP because she's got shorter cooldowns, right? And more wave clear. It can sometimes be hard for us to play into champions that play quite heavy on the wave. So taking TP is like a thing that I would do to begin with. Then the other thing is that if we have TP, we just let the wave crash, we take everything under tower, and we just take the reset, we lose 2 creeps. But how do we solve this specific situation? Because sometimes we're going to be in suboptimal spots, right? Taking TP is not going to be a solution. We're going to need to be creative and use our mind to solve this puzzle. Since Ori has TP, we got to ask ourselves the question, can we push this wave before she gets back? The answer to that question is, of course, no. Especially with the next wave coming in, we will never ever be able to push the wave before she gets back. So what we should do here is let the wave crash under turret, and we're gonna just reach level 4, okay? And reaching level 4 is gonna prevent Orianna from diving us. We still got flash, so if she tries to combo us and dive us in the tower, we can always just flash her combo and she won't be able to dive us. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna catch the entire wave under tower, and then when the next wave runs up to neutral, we're just gonna take the big fat L and take the reset. And the mindset is you want to take the L as fast as possible so you're in a position where you can fight for lane control again. Because when something happens on the map and you're not in a position to play, anything that happens is good for the enemy team. So we just need to sacrifice a few minions and basically do the lesser evil, which just means we're just going to catch this wave nicely on the tower. And after that, Orianna should slow push, and that puts us in a position where we can't really step up for the next wave. So that's why we just got to press the B button. And we will then lose 3/4 of a wave, but it's fine since we got the kill. And we still got the ghost up instead of her TP being used, which means that we're going to be winning from that point onwards. This next example is from a Grandmaster player, and he's going to play Ahri versus Orianna. He's going to get a little bit of a gank from the Hecarim. As you can see, we have Arup as Ahri. We're quite strong. And we are in a position where we might be able to, if we land a charm, we might be able to actually fish a kill onto this Orianna. And let's see how we could have potentially played this in a way that it would have worked out a little bit better. In the end, it goes terribly wrong. We get completely comboed by Diana and Orianna, and we just get blasted. Now, we're going to first talk about the micro, then we're going to talk about the macro. So micro in this specific case is how could we potentially land our charm? How could we be more useful in this regard? Now, first thing that we need to do is we need to be earlier at ulting forwards. So the moment Hecarim comes in, we need to already be ulting forwards, and we need to not use W yet. W needs to go later. You see where our W is going right now? Fucking air here onto the minions. So don't press W just yet. Out attack, R forward, out attack W, and then I would R forward more in the second time so we can get closer, and then I would kind of bait out her flash, then try to go for E. If she holds flash and she wins the mind game, and she always flashes our charm, there's never a kill opportunity here, right? So this only works if Orianna actively misplays with her flash up. So then we gotta ask ourselves the question, is this even a smart fight to take? Now, that's something that we can see in the tab here, because I actually don't think it is. What do we know about Hecarim? Hecarim is an ult-reliant champion, incredibly ult-reliant. Without ult, not useful. So this play already was quite risky. We also see that our bot side is doing quite well right now, and scaling-wise in this game, we have no problems at all. We have ultra scalers in almost every role. This guy is going to be completely useless real soon. And the enemy's team comp is split up. They don't have a proper front line. They got like the Alistar, but it's also like their main engage. Then their follow-up is kind of wishy-washy. Their comp is ass, while ours is a lot better, for solo queue especially. And the Dragon's coming up in 54 seconds. So with Dragon coming up in 54 seconds, do we even want to use our ult on mid? We have a strong bot lane where if we fight 4v4 with Hecarim R, we can't lose because we're ahead. And by us using ult on mid and gambling if Orianna is bad enough to get hit by the charm, right, to get this kill on mid, it's just not a high percentage play. It's not a consistent play. We should always play for Dragon. Call this play off, let Hecarim pop a full clear. I don't care what Hecarim wants to do. He needs to wait until he gets ult up, and then we just play Drake. So in this chat, I'm not seeing a single ping on the Dragon. It looks like we are not aware of the neutral objective, which leads to us, of course, making a play like this because we don't know bigger picture what the most consistent high percentage play is. A new example from the same Grandmaster player. We're looking at a Baron contest. And we killed the Shaco, we killed the Diana. So we are 4 people up on top. And the enemies can only send 3 at the moment, while Garen is currently pushing bot with teleport up. We see that there is an interesting position where the Baron kind of doesn't really fucking die, and the enemies now contest us on the Baron. We get into a position where we get chunked, we're forced to use R. The enemies land a beautiful Orianna ult, and Garen eventually TPs in. Shaco also comes. We do get the Baron, but it didn't really work out all that well because everyone kind of dies and we can't really utilize the Baron like this. So this was not a pretty sequence. Let's break down why this happened and what we can do in the future to prevent these type of situations. First things first, we have to establish what are we going to do with Baron. Whenever you start Baron, you have two options. Option number one, you are going to finish it, and option number two, you're going to fight it. 9 out of 10 times, all right, to begin with, we're fighting. Okay, and the reason why fighting is just mostly the correct play is because if you finish Baron and someone dies, it's actually kind of hard to make a play happen. So you kind of want to engage and use the Baron as a bit of a fighting magnet so you can then have more leverage and more utilization of this Baron. It's really hard if people die and we lose shutdowns. Sometimes Baron in itself is not really even that worth because you can't even make progress with the specific objective. So fighting is generally a little bit more consistent, especially when you're in a position like this where you got full vision. Plus, sometimes after you play for Baron, a fight still happens, we get aced, Baron's gone. So awkward. Now, in this specific scenario, right, fighting is absolutely the play that we got to go for because there's a really crucial detail we're not seeing is that we have no fucking Baron damage. We have no DPS, we have an AP carry on our AD carry role, which means that our DPS on Baron's kind of low. As Ari, we don't have DPS as well. Hecarim's DPS is there, but not super high. And then Senna, of course, also doesn't do a lot of DPS, and the Garen's not there. So this Baron call is great if we set it up a little bit differently. I don't think we should play the Baron to flip or to finish. We should utilize this Baron as a fighting magnet. So what I would want to do is I would want to move in here into this bush, place a ward right there, let Hecarim start it or target it, or we sit in this bush with the Viger with the cage, and what is going to happen? These guys are going to fucking run into this so extremely hard. They're going to run into this. The moment they show up right there, I'm going to move from this bush to here, and then we're going to just find a flank. That's like the goal. We're going to try to find a flank, and then the moment they're like stepping over here, maybe we are now behind this wall, and guess what happens when we're behind this wall? Hecarim's got ult up. We can now R over the wall, and we have a 4v3 fight where we're not hit and chunked by the Baron, where we are in a great position to get onto their carries, and the enemies cannot really play the game. The problem here in this fight is that no one's on the same page. Hecarim is finishing, the rest is fighting, we kind of get pushed out, and it's just this really awkward position. So make sure that whenever you contest these Barons as a team, play the same game, okay? Be on the same page. All finish or all fight. But generally speaking, fighting is a little bit more consistent. This next example is from a master tier Orianna player that is a little bit unsure about a fight happening on the top side of the map where he cannot really connect towards his team. So we're currently on the weak side of the map, bot side, without teleport up. It seems there's a bit of action happening on the top side of the map. We're shifting over. We have to take the walk of shame, the weak side route, which puts us in a position where we, of course, are a little bit later to this fight. And it's pretty hard to play whenever you're Orianna and you're late to the fight. You want to be early and force the enemies to run towards you, right? That's how Orianna plays. We put the Q in the choke point, we try to contest the wave, we get collapsed upon by TF, and we're, of course, incredibly dead. Like, super dead. No counterplay. Great. Let's break down what we should have done given this position. And we always start with a tab here. From a deployment, you always want a tab. So, the question you always ask yourself coming from base is, what is the next objective? Now, in this case, it really depends on what you want to do, right? We could immediately play Rift Herald, which is totally viable. We could also play Dragon here, which is also totally viable. What is your intention, okay? What do you want to do? And depending on your intention, we can make it happen. Now, in this case, Dragon, it seems like Orianna wants to play for Dragon. That is totally viable. If we want to set up for Drake, what do we need to do? We need to try to get mid push into bot side vision control, which is then going to allow us to set up for the Drake with our team. And then our team, K needs to clear top to bot into Drake. Aatrox needs to be able to potentially TP in or at least move towards the Drake. But a small problem is that Aatrox has no TP. It doesn't look like he's winning versus Zen right now. So this might be a bit of a liability. He might not be able to connect to the Drake. We need to be able to connect as the entire team. Otherwise, we're in a bit of trouble. So what we see right here is that this deployment into bot is very dangerous. Okay? Extremely dangerous position into bot. Because we now actively step away from being able to connect with this Aatrox because he's no TP. We kind of force Aatrox to play Drake because we deploy bot. And this puts us in a position where Aatrox now is homeless for the next 40 seconds because he can't go top because he might get contested by Zahen. And he's then going to get pushed in. He can never move. So Aatrox is fucked. And by us going bot, our entire team is forced to play into bot side. That's fine, right? That's okay. Now, what actually happens is the opposite, right? We move into bot, we catch the wave, and now our team is not moving into bot side, but they're moving into top side, which now means that we're disconnected because we don't have TP, and this entire sequence is just messed up. We need to be first in the area with Caitlyn, of course, being a bit of a control mage, as the way that she plays fights. She wants to lay down traps, use her range when the enemies run into her. Same do we as Orianna, so we need to be first. So how do we fix this situation, right? How do we put all of these key things together? Well, the way that we do that is by not deploying bot, okay? Deploying bot is rigid. It disconnects Aatrox from the game, and it also makes it impossible for us to get control of an area, especially bot side, because the way that we get control in this scenario is by enabling Thresh to move in bot side. If we are on bot lane right here, 1v1ing TF, guess who can't walk in? Thresh, because TF can just always ult in while we're just sitting clearing the wave, right? So Thresh can never walk in. So given the fact that we need to play true mid and front to back control mage oriented gameplay with these two champions, and not side lane oriented gameplay, which is what these two champions want to do, we need to deploy true mid and enable vision control for Thresh. This is also going to be the extra benefit of allowing us to also be flexible and move into top side if our team decides to play for a Rift Herald. Now, what actually happens if the enemies then decide to just push bot and take the turret? Great, let them. What happens is that they will just be able to take the turret, then they take this, and in the meantime, while they are taking turret, we take Herald and we take top turret. So we trade, and we're trading equally even better because we are actually getting the Rift Herald for it in return. And whenever you trade, when someone team has Rift Herald, you're generally winning. You can always then, at the end of the Rift Herald, reset and catch the wave under bot tier 2. So we should not deploy true bot, we should deploy true mid, and that would fix the position. If you're ever in a position where you're disconnected from your team, guys, you need to investigate this, right? How comes that I'm disconnected? What did I not understand? What key pieces of information did I miss, which led to me being in this position? And this is a classic puzzle to solve in the master tier ranges. If you're a master tier, you're going to find heaps of these type of puzzles that just a small piece of extra information or a small deployment will just be a game changer to how your game actually plays out. Now, if you feel like you are struggling with some of these invisible mistakes, with some of these issues, check out the link in the description. You can post your clips in our coaching program. We are also going to do full in-game review sessions in which that we're going to walk through your problems, figure out what you're struggling with, and find you specific, detailed improvement points that you can work with so you can climb as a player. Thank you all for watching. See you guys real soon with a new video.